building a huge kind of group team resume of the successes that we've had together. And it's a great level to get on. Now let me say something about these levels. Level number 1 is given to you. You join a company. Levels 2, 3, and 4, you must earn. If you do the middle 3 correctly, if you relate well with people, if you produce, if you develop others, if you do those first 3, if those middle 3 well, let me tell you what happened. Just as the first one is given to you by the company, here's what I love. The last level will be given to you by the people. For level number 5 is the personhood level. And the key word is respect. You see, at level number 5, people follow because of who you are and because of what you represent. In other words, let me explain it to you this way. You have done it so well with so many for so long that after a while you find they are literally lifting you on their shoulders. It's almost like the team does for a winning coach after they win a championship, and they pick them up and carry them off the field. To be truthful with you, if you do those first 4 levels well, there's a time when your people will pick you up. You never need to declare that you're on level number 5. The people declare it for you. It's a wonderful level to be on. Somebody says, well, how do I get to level number 5? It's very simple. Do the first 4 levels well. If you do the first 4 levels well, number 5 is automatic. Now, if I were you and I was taking these notes and I just listened to the 5 levels of leadership influence, the question, I would begin asking myself some questions, and I would begin to want to pull out some truths and principles that are huge. Let me give you 7 things I want you to know about climbing the steps of leadership. Number 1, the higher you go, the longer it takes. Now, I don't even think I need to explain that to you. You understand that, don't you? You don't get to level number 5 immediately. In other words, you don't walk into your company, get on level number 1 and say, oh, well, this is good on Monday. Could I be on level 5 by Friday? No, by Friday you get to find out how to get to your office without getting lost. It takes a while. Remember, we're not trying to microwave leaders. We're trying to crock pot them. This is a crock pot process. It's a fact that it's going to take a while for you to go from level 1 to 2 to 3 to 4 to 5. It's going to take a long time. The second thing I want to share with you is this. The higher you go, the higher the level of commitment. And the higher the level of commitment is both your commitment to your people and their commitment to you. For example, if we go back to level number 1 for a second, when people follow you because they have to, they're not highly committed to you. They're not highly committed to following you. But every time you go up another level, your commitment to them and their commitment to you increases. That's why when people look to me and they say, John, I want to get a high level of commitment with my people. See, they're working on the wrong thing. They're working on getting commitment out of their people. They ought to work on climbing the levels of influence with their people. Because when you get to level number 4, the commitment is there. The third observation I would like to make is the higher you go, the easier it is to lead. Some people ask me sometimes, they say, John, is it possible for leadership to get easier? My answer is always the same. Of course it is. Every time you climb those steps, it gets easier, and let me explain why. Every time you climb a step, you have put another foundation underneath your leadership belt. So people at level number 4 that are with you because you've developed them, oh my goodness, they're much more quick to follow you than people who are just at level number 1. Fourth observation, the higher you go, the greater your success. The greater your success, the greater the success of the company. It just not only gets easier to lead, it gets a lot more profitable. Number 5, you never leave a level below, you build on it. Now, let's go back and look at the levels for just a second. And probably if I could, I would literally put lines here, because what I want you to understand is every time you go to another level, you're stepping and deepening your foundation. So as the higher you go, the more foundation you have underneath of you. And what I want you to realize is that you never leave level 1 when you go to level 2. You're still at level 1. You're just on level 1, but you happen to be also on level 2. So each time you go another level, when you're on level number 3, what it means is you're on level 3 with some people, you're on level 2 with some people, and you're on level 1 with some people. So here's what I'm saying is, when you get to the production side and you start producing results, you don't say, thank God I'm on level number 3. And I don't have to fool with that permission relationship level anymore. Boy, that was tough. I'm glad I'm not doing that anymore. Thank God, now I don't care what people think, I'm just going to produce. No. Remember this. If you ignore the level that you just left, that level will pull you down every time. Observation number 6. As a leader, you won't be on the same level with all of your people. Let me illustrate. Let's say you have 100 people in your company. All 100 of them are on level number 1 with you. Does that make sense? You've got the title, you got position. But when you go to level number 2, which is relationships, not all 100 people will go up to level 2 with you. There'll be a few that stay at level 1. So for teaching's sake, let's say that if you have 100 people at level number 1, let's say 80 people go to level number 2. 20 people stay behind. Okay, now those 100 people are still with you. They're just on level 1, but 80 of those people are on level number 2. When you start producing and giving results, not everybody's going to produce, not everybody's going to give you results. So let's say again, you leave some others behind. So you go from 80 to level number 3, you got 60 with you. When you go from level 3 to level 4, where you start developing people, let's say you only have 40. Now here's what I want you to see. At every level, you have different people with you. And the higher you go, the less people that you have with you in the levels of leadership. Does that make sense? Yes. Now this is very important. And what makes this important is this. When you cast vision, many times I've seen this, where leaders, presidents of organizations, have cast a vision and they get different responses from their people. In other words, they'll cast a vision and one person says, my goodness, this is a great vision, I can hardly wait to roll up my sleeves. Another person says, boy, I can hardly wait to leave the company. And they'll come to me and they'll say, what happened? I was in the same group with the same people at the same time, casting the same vision, and they have all these different responses. Now, here's what I want you to see. People will respond to your vision, they'll respond to your leadership based on the level you're on with them. Let me explain. I have 100 people in my organization. I have 100 people on level number 1 with me. I have 80 on level number 2. I have 60 on level number 3. I have 40 on level number 4. Now, let's say that I'm asking for a huge commitment. Here's what I want you to know. The people up on these higher levels, they'll commit quickly and they'll commit deeply because they've taken the journey with me. The people on level number 1 who are following me because they have to, they won't be near as deep or near as committed to me as people on level 3 or 4. Does that make sense to you? Yes. I want to make the final observation and then drive home the point. The 7th observation is you must work to carry other leaders with you up the steps. Very simply stated, it's important for you to take what I call your inner circle. In the 21 Irrefutable Laws of Leadership, one of the laws is the law of the inner circle. The law of the inner circle basically says those closest to you will determine the level of your success. You want to make sure you take them up with you, because if you take your leaders, your inner circle with you, they'll keep you there. I've seen times where leaders failed to take their key people up the levels of influence with them. And people follow them, some of them, but the key influencers, the leaders, the inner circle stayed down here. That's a bad scene. It's only a matter of time till these influencers will begin to pull you right back down. So ask yourself this question. Am I taking my inner circle up the levels of influence with me? Am I taking the key players on my team up the levels of leadership with me? It's important for you to go up the levels, but it's important for you to take especially the key people up those levels with you. One more thought on the 5 levels of leadership, and then I want to do some teaching, especially on the 3 middle levels. I would encourage you, on your own, to really study the 5 levels of leadership. If you want to know more about it, I would encourage you to pick up a book that I wrote in 1993 called Developing the Leader Within You. I have a whole chapter just absolutely committed to teaching the 5 levels of leadership. I've had many people study the 5 levels of leadership and say, it changed my life when I began to understand that my organization or my company doesn't take me to the next level. I take myself to the next level. See, your future isn't based on your organization. Your future is based on you. And your ability to understand these 5 levels and how to go from step to step to get to the top. So let's talk about what I call the 3 key levels out of these 5 levels of leadership, the 3 key levels of influence or leadership. Now, I've already said, number 1 is given to you. Number 5 is automatic. In other words, the company gives you level number 1. The people give you level number 5. But you've got to do numbers 2, 3, and 4 well. Level number 2 is the permission level. That's your ability to connect with people. Level number 3 is the production level. That's your ability to lead people and the organization. And level number 4 is the people development level. In other words, your ability to grow and train people. Let's take a moment and let's make sure that we get all these levels under our belt. Let's talk first of all about level number 2, the permission level. In other words, your ability to connect with people. Fred Smith said it well. He said, leadership is getting people to work for you when they're not obligated. I was doing a President's Day for Johnson Controls a few years ago. They basically brought in companies that they work with, and they take and give a day to the presidents of all these companies, a leadership day. And so they asked me to come in. In fact, they asked me to come in and teach the 21 irrefutable laws of leadership to about 150 CEOs and presidents. And I'll never forget this because we were in a question and answer period, and one of the presidents of the company raised his hand and said, John, I got a question to ask you. He said, I have about 5 or 6 really good leaders. And he said, I'm trying to get ready to bring one of them up to a whole new position. And he said, I don't know which one is the best leader. He said, do you have any suggestions of how I can know who my best of the 6 leaders would be? I said, yes, I do. I said, what would happen if you took those 6 leaders and went into your community and put each one of them in charge of a volunteer community project? In other words, said, I want you for the next 6 months to lead this community project. I want you to lead this one. And they had to be volunteers. People weren't paid. It had to be leading volunteers. I said, here's what I want you to know. The best leader of the 6 will be the one who can most successfully lead volunteers. Let me put it this way. You never know what kind of a leader you are until you lead people who don't have to follow. Oh, so many times we use the paycheck and we use the leverage, and people say, well, okay, I'll do what you want me to do. And basically, you're not leading them, you're controlling them. But see, when you lead volunteers, when you lead people that don't have to follow you and you can lead them successfully, you become absolutely huge as far as your ability to produce as a leader. Well, level number 2, the permission level, is exactly what I'm talking about. I remember last year I had the privilege of the King family asked me to speak for Martin Luther King's birthday and honoring him on his national holiday. And I remember as I was able to do that, what an honor it was for me